Hello and welcome to your weekly ray of electric car sunshine, brought to you by the gang at electrifying.com. On the podcast this week, we will be talking about the shortlist for the best electric cars and cars generally in the world. The Smart, that is not so small anymore, and Seat's electric future, or should that be lack of one?
Yep.
Welcome to the Kilowatt Half Hour. I am Ginny.
And I'm Tom.
It's nice to see you.
We're back. We're back. Did you miss us?
Sorry, we were away for a couple of weeks. It was just bonkers, wasn't it?
Crazy.
We have been everywhere. There have been more car launches in March than we think there's been probably since June, maybe June time last year. It's been a lot. So we've got lots to talk about. What have you been driving and doing? Just a quick, because otherwise that will take up the whole half hour.
Yeah, true. So I went to a Toyota Lexus thing, and I saw some new Toyota. So there's the facelift BZ4X, which is a bit meh. There's the CHR Plus, which I think's pretty good, actually. I think that's going to be all right.
I wish they'd move away from these weird letters and numbers, though. What is the CHR Plus? What does that tell anybody?
Yeah, well, I think the CHR is quite a familiar car, isn't it? But it's a hybrid. This has nothing in common with it except a badge.
Okay. And then there's the car that's going to be powered by the sun.
Yeah, so the FTME, which is kind of an AMI rival.
I laughed when I read that.
I know. Well, might be right today. You never know.
Yeah.
Super efficient, solar panel on the roof. They reckon it will add 20 to 30 miles on a sunny day, and therefore the average commuter won't need to plug it in at all.
Are you believing that, gang? Let us know what you think in the comments. I'm not convinced. You did the Sums ones on a... It was a Toyota, wasn't it, that had the optional solar panel?
No, it was a Genesis.
A Genesis. How long was it going to take?
Oh, it was like 30 years to get back the money to a normal charging thing, to get back the money you'd need to have the option.
Yeah, given that this is the first day we've seen sunshine in a long time, I'm not convinced that's going to fly. But anyway, so Toyota, what else have you been doing?
And also there's a Lexus, so there's a facelift RZ, which has more power, which is probably the one thing I thought that car didn't need. I went to a Citroen thing. Yes, I'm not allowed to tell you what the cars drive like, but there was the EC3, the EC4 and the EC4X, and the EC3 in particular is an interesting car. So if you come back, I'll be able to talk about that.
That is one to revisit.
Yep.
I've been seeing something completely mad amongst many other things.
Oh, yes.
So the Renault 5 Turbo 3E, which is, of course, Renault's reincarnation of the cars of the 80s, the hot hatches, which were very much kind of our wheelbase when we were teenagers, weren't we?
There was a figure for the torque on that, and I'm like, it's a typo. This is a mistake. Yeah. But it's not, is it? It's got like 10, 20 times the torque from a standard Renault 5.
We were all trying to question Renault's engineers on this, and it all got very complicated. And I think the best way we could describe it was that it's the kind of a theoretical torque. If they do the maths, it's the theoretical amount of torque that it could deliver. It's just still fast. It's still really, really, really fast.
Because it would just destroy the tyres or the road surface.
The tarmac would literally melt, actually. So it's sort of theoretical, but it just shows it's going to have plenty of guts. Yeah. But it was interesting because they had the old, beautiful old turbos there, and they had the old rally cars. So it was great seeing those. But what's really struck me is, so we're in one of our long-termers today that we've had, a car which is sadly going back, and we've got a video of what Tom and I both thought of this car coming to the channel soon. So this is the Cupra Born VZ. So it's their kind of hot hatch version. We were saying in that video, cars like this didn't even exist a few years ago, did they? So it's this whole new breed of electric hot hatches, and of course that instant performance that you get and torque with an electric motor is what makes them so attractive to car makers. So they had at the Renault event the old turbos there, and I was looking at the 0 to 60 times, and 6.6 seconds, which at the time, trust me, younger people, in the 80s, that was a really high scoring top trumps card, a really high scoring one, and it felt like incredible, didn't it? This one today, the Cupra VZ, which is, let's face it, it's a hatchback, like those cars where it's a hatchback. This can do 0 to 60 in 5.6 seconds.
Yeah, and that's not even particularly quick by electric car standards. Some other things are like less than 2 seconds, isn't it? It's like,
Yeah,
come on.
It's been a long week and my memory is fading a little, but I'm pretty sure that the turbo, you can correct me if I'm in the comments if I'm wrong, was 3.5 seconds. It's just insane. Anyway, so that was bonkers. So I went to look at that. What else have I been? I can't remember what else I've been doing. We've been driving this. I've been driving the Vauxhall Astra Sports Tourer, which we've also got a video coming out on soon. Which it's been again a car we've been running for a while. And I think it makes sense for very specific people.
Yes.
It's not got all-round appeal, that car.
Yeah.
But if you need loads of space, and it's got a lot of space, and you need a practical car that's efficient, the battery's not too big on it. You're not going to get, you're not going to get hundreds of miles of range, but the range it offers, it's fairly efficient.
Yeah, it's efficient.
And don't look at the list price because it makes no sense at that, but you can get some really good deals.
It's one of those cars that sometimes I see a car on the road and I think, well, how did you end up with that car? What process led to? And I think with that, it's that you go on and you're like, right, I need a new car, and you go and look at the leasing deals and you go, oh, that seems cheap.
Yeah.
And then you end up with one, and I think you'd be perfectly happy. I wouldn't have a problem.
Yes.
Talking of cheap cars, the other thing I went is to the Seat Cooper event.
Oh yeah, you did.
Yeah, and I had some chats with some big cheeses there. And I was trying to get my head round what's happening with Seat.
It's not the Seat Cooper anymore. You said Seat Cooper.
Well, Seat stroke Cooper.
Okay.
Company,
yes.
Because a couple of years ago, the big boss of Volkswagen said Seat's dead as a car brand. And it's still there. And I'm like, well, what's going on? And they've just facelifted Ibiza and a Rona with petrol engines. And they said, well, they're still selling well, so why wouldn't we? And we said, well, what about electric? They said, no, the future of electric is Cupra. And it's going to be at least 2030 before they even start to think about electric Seats. Because Seat now has to be the cheapest brand in the Volkswagen group. So it's not Skoda anymore, Seat.
Isn't that interesting? I think what we've got to remember, and I know I've had similar conversations with senior execs at Seat and at VW Group, and the thing is that we are moving really quick in the UK and in Europe. And if you're listening to this podcast, then you're engaged in EV. There's huge parts of huge parts of the world where they're moving at a much slower pace. So Seat is very much positioned as the brand that's going to be there for those people that are still not quite there yet. So they've got something to offer them within the group.
Yeah.
So it's sensible. I think what was interesting was I went to see the VW ID1 recently. So video of that on the YouTube channel here, which is not coming forever. I mean, it's coming in like 2 years' time. But I was talking to Volkswagen's head of engineering. We were talking about this car, and will it do the way the Up did, the VW Up, and there was the Me, and then the
Citigo,
the Citigo, the Skoda Citigo. It was like no, it's for us at Volkswagen. The other brands, they're not getting it. This is going to be just for us. And we're like, yeah, what, really? Like in the long term initially? No, it's just for us. See how long that lasts. But it's interesting, and they've got all of that juggling act to do, haven't they, when they've got all those brands?
Yeah, because if you look at the Volkswagen Group stuff, so we saw a early prototype of the Cupra Raval, which is their ID2, which is a bit of an SUV thing, and there'll be the Skoda Epic, is it the small one that's based on ID2?
That looks great.
Yeah, and they both look great, but they're very different. So the Skoda, will be a bit softer, the Cupra will be a bit sportier, a bit like this is versus an L-Rock or something. And then there's a Volkswagen version. They're all quite different, but I think in the old days they used to, like the Seat Me was just almost a stuck-on badge, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. It's much more now about personality.
Yeah.
That Skoda Epic.
Yeah.
I mean, I know they've only officially really shown a concept version, haven't they? I think it does look epic. If they can get it out looking like that, I think it's going to be really cool.
Because I always thought the ID2 was a bit boring. But the Raval looks good and the Epic looks good. But Volkswagen people like their cars to look conventional.
They do, and the ID1 does look fairly conventional, and that was my thought on that car really, was what will it look like in 2027 when we finally see it? And we've had all these other small electric cars, but they're adamant that timeless is the kind of the phrase they're using, that they think a lot of these more funkier, smaller cars will date.
Yeah, I mean, I did see.
Was that wishful? I don't know. Was it wishful thinking? I don't know.
I saw the other day an early ID3 and thought, oh, that looks quite old now. So maybe they're right. Whereas a Golf never looks old, really, does it?
Yeah, no, it doesn't. It doesn't. Yeah, maybe that is it. That is it. Yeah, maybe. Anyway, should we talk about some news?
Yes, talk about some news. World Car?
World Car, yeah.
Because
I am
a sainted juror.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Do you bring me like offerings?
Yes.
And,
Car makers do. Please.
Drive my car. No, not necessarily all of them do. Yes. So the final 3 have been announced this week. It's a very long process. So it's from memory like 90 odd jurors, about 30 countries around the world. It's a really interesting process because, as I've already said, there's people moving to electric at different rates. Some people more excited by different things because it works in their particular market. What American jurors might like is not necessarily what we like here in Europe. It's really interesting all getting together and talking. Anyway, they've announced the top 3 in each category ahead of the final awards being announced at the New York Auto Show. I think April the 18th, I'm not sure. The full list is on the website over at electrifying.com. But what was interesting for me is the top 3 cars, again, all electric or have electric versions. So we've got the BMW X3, of course, electric version of that. But the other 2, the Hyundai Insta, very good car. And also the Kia EV3, which, of course, was our electrifying car of the year.
Yep.
And again, if you look, there's lots of different categories. There's World Electric Car as well. And that has got in, which made me pleasantly surprised, really. But Mini Electric is in that, in the final. So it's Mini Electric, the Insta again, and the EV3. And I think what's nice is seeing these smaller electric cars being acknowledged, and we've got more of them appearing. If we'd have looked at the best electric car 3 years ago, off the top of my head, I can't tell you what the finalists were, but they would have all been bigger SUVs.
Yeah.
And I think that really shows that we are starting to get more smaller compact cars.
At last, yeah.
And of course, everybody watching this podcast in America will be saying, but not us! Because that's one of the comments we get regularly, is that these great small EVs that we get in Europe and the rest of the world, they don't necessarily go to the States.
Really?
So, yeah.
Have they got minis and things?
Yeah, but I think a lot of the EVs that we're getting, cars like the Insta, cars like the Renault 5. I mean, actually, when you go and check out the full list of all the finalists, which are over, as I said, on the website, you'll notice that some emissions cars like the Renault 5 aren't on there, and that's because it's a global award. They have to go on sale in so many markets.
Cupra's going to the States.
Is it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Oh, listen, our followers and our friends in the States, Cupra Born VZ. Fun. You'll like that on a nice stretch of Californian road. So that was that. What's been catching your eye in the news?
EV tax. So we've done a blog on everything you need to know about the £40,000 barrier, which is coming in on April 1st. In theory, but I reckon they're going to roll back.
Yeah, we've got a spring budget coming, haven't we, this week, in a few days. So just to give you the background to this, so this is based on figures that were set in 2017. It's quite a long time ago. The car world and the world generally is very different. So this is a tax of £40,000. It's kind of known as the luxury car tax, also known as the Tesla tax. And the issue is really that when you look at the amount of electric vehicles sold last year, and actually I was at a conference last week with the Society for Motor Manufacturers and Traders, so their big electric conference, and Paul Philpott, who's the brilliant boss here in the UK, was saying they've crunched the numbers, and it was about 74% of EVs sold last year are above the £40,000 bracket, because that upfront cost is still more, because a lot of the bigger batteried SUVs, certainly last year there were more of those being sold. And if you look at the petrol and diesel cars sold last year, again off the top of my head, it was about only 24% of petrol and diesel cars fell into that bracket. So it is really unfairly penalising electric cars, and particularly those drivers who might need a bigger battery because they do a lot of driving, or might need a bigger SUV because they've got family and they need loads of space. So we've been kind of banging on about that for a while, haven't we, saying it needs to be addressed. And your suspicion is that's going to be snuck in?
I think in the last budget in October, there was something saying we acknowledge that this is an issue and we will address it in a future fiscal event, I think was the word.
Fiscal event.
No, the next fiscal event after that
Such
is
bollocks, isn't it?
it is the spring budget, which would make perfect sense because it's just before. Now that would annoy all sorts of people who've been out and rushed and bought a car, and all the car makers who've been doing different things and probably printing brochures and things. And if a few days before they announced it's going to change, and you don't know to what. I mean, it might be. 50,000,
I think that the figure that people generally are saying is a fairer figure would be £65,000 for EVs. So that's a figure that's been was it 60? No, it wasn't. It was 60,000. About 55 to £60,000.
Yeah.
So going up £15,000 to £20,000.
Right.
That's sort of the figure that I think the industry has been calling for, and I think certainly if you look at that split of what cars are sold in what brackets, that's what seems to make sense. I don't think they'll do it.
You don't think they'll do
I don't think. Should we have a bet?
Yeah, okay.
Should we come back in the podcast next week?
Yeah.
Fiver? You think they will?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Rachel Reeves is going to give anybody any treats in the budget. I think we're all doomed. Okay. Watch this space. Tune in next week. If you want to join in, let us know in the comments below. What do you think? Is she going to be kind to EV drivers or not? What else?
Something I looked at in the news was this BYD that can charge at 1,000 or 1 megawatt.
Theoretically.
1 megawatt charging is going to come, isn't it, for trucks? And I think a Tesla Cybertruck can charge at 1 megawatt in theory, but I think we'd have to change our whole format.
I'm right. I'm going to find you Andy Palmer, friend of this podcast.
Yes.
Okay.
My old boss. Yeah.
Yeah, your old boss.
Yeah.
The godfather of electric cars, as we like to refer to him. So this question was put to Andy on a WhatsApp group that I'm on, and we were talking about this. And Andy was saying, this is a grid problem, not an electrochemistry one. We've been able to charge EVs in 10 to 20 minutes for a while. 5 minutes is likely possible, but it would likely be a more expensive cell and would certainly decrease life.
Yeah.
The charging, the 1 megawatt charging would be hard to implement in reality. And yes, I'm sure that cable would be very chunky. It would also mean really high voltages on the car side. It's all possible. But there's a risk of infrastructure all separated for Tesla, for BYD, and thus the rest compounding what is already a mess of plugs. It's really good to see, but harder to implement, which just summed it up brilliantly.
That does.
So there we go. Thanks, Andy. We should get Andy on the podcast.
We should. That'd be good.
Okay, we'll get Andy on the podcast in a couple of weeks because he's got really great thoughts on things like this. But great to see those boundaries being pushed.
Yep, absolutely.
Right, there we go.
Videos?
Found that. Oh, what have we got? Well, we got long-term videos, as I said. Oh, the Renault 5.
Renault 5.
Oh, if you haven't seen that, do check it out.
Yes. Oh, yes, that one.
There's a little surprise in it.
And also, I got to drive that car for a week afterwards after it had been used in that video. And
Don't say like you got the second-hand car after it had been used in the video.
After they'd finished with it, I was allowed. Yeah.
You had it delivered to you.
But I can't. Well, I have had a reaction like that in a car before. And one was when they did the Mini in 2000.
Yeah.
And the Beetle. I think those are the two cars that have caused such a reaction from people. So
you said people knocked on your door.
People were knocking on my door asking to look at it. The neighbours have been all over it. And there's a bloke in an RS4 yesterday on the M25 give me a thumbs up.
Excellent.
I'm sure it'll wear off, but people love it. And it's not like you're in a supercar and they try and ignore you because they think you're posing. They love it because it's a cheap, affordable car that they enjoy.
It's a real lesson, that car, in how to successfully navigate a comeback. One that Ford would have been wise to learn before it relaunched the Capri. But let's not go there again.
I saw a Capri this morning.
Did it just look
I
big
thought
and
you've been
flabby?
unduly harsh on it, and this one was red and a base model, and it did look awful.
Good.
Yeah.
It's not my fave.
Yeah.
Okay, what are the smart that's no longer small.
Smart #5.
God, massive.
Hashtag 5. Yeah, big, isn't it? It's a cut price Mercedes. It looks like a Mercedes. It's got.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nikki's been out to do a walk around video of that's just gone live on the channel. And let us know what you think, because I was like, oh, it looks really nice.
I did the script for that and I was a bit frustrated because in the press release it said, it's got this Atherton XP7 processor in the infotainment system which can do this many things per. It's like, okay, what size are the motors? Well, we can't tell you that.
It's the basics.
But I guessed. I think it's probably the same as a Polestar 4 because it's built on the same platform, isn't it?
Of course it is.
I guessed. So
Okay.
if I'm wrong, sorry.
Yeah. Shall we do the Barnard's bargain? Have you got a bargain? Is it
slightly controversial? Yeah. Dare I mention the T word?
Oh God, the T word. I don't know if we can talk about that anymore.
We've it's been Tesla this, Tesla that everywhere, and everybody's anti-Tesla.
Yeah. We've been on the radio and in print a lot talking about this. I've done so many interviews about Tesla. Not just it's a really interesting issue. We talk about it. We've discussed it, and we have decided that we're going to carry on reviewing Teslas because we're here to independently review cars, and we're not going to make a political stance or statement, irrespective of what we may think. But yeah, it's definitely something that's got everyone talking.
It is. And, there's all this talking about, is Tesla dead and all this type of thing. And then ping into my inbox, a Tesla Model 3 now available at $322 a month on my basis. So it's $299 a month. But when I adjusted it to get the deposit lower, but it's 10,000 miles, which is the minimum you can do on a Tesla. So $322 a month is quite cheap for that car. It's quite capable.
It is cheap.
Whether you want to drive one or not, up to you.
Absolutely, we were not passing comment or judgment on that, but it is for what it offers, it is a cheap deal, which may tell you a little bit about how much more this story has got to run. Okay, shall we now thank our partner for this episode?
Yes, we're looking at one of their chargers.
We are looking at one of their chargers because this episode of the Kilowatt Half Hour is brought to you with the help of Anderson EV, and as I can tell from the one I'm looking at on the wall over there, if you're into design as much as you love electric cars, you will love their home chargers because it really does blend in.
It does.
Or maybe put a picture of it here.
Yeah. So the Anderson A2 and A3 aren't just functional, they're beautifully made. With a choice of 200 colours and finishes. We've got a kind of black ash over here. So they blend in with your home and can be made to match your car.
No bulky boxes, just smart tech that looks great and works, and you can find them at anderson-ev.com. Shall we move on to what the gang have had to say?
Yes,
they've been shouting at us
lot.
because we've not been there for 2 weeks, and we're really sorry we won't do it again. Car buying questions?
Yep. Okay. Yep.
Okay, shall I do Nick from Wiltshire?
Yes, please do.
Hi, Nick. Question for the excellent pod. Thank you. What are the least tiring EVs that you've driven? What an interesting question. Bonus points if they're available used for under £30,000. I love my BMW i3S in most respects, but I have a chronic illness and the car leaves me exhausted after vaguely lengthy journeys. If you can think of anything that left you fresh and sharp after an hour or so's drive, that might be a safer option. Thanks for the weekly, theoretically half hour of quality content. Oh, thanks, Nick. I'm sorry. Sorry to hear that you're struggling with that. That's a question, and I've been doing this job a long time as a view that I've never been asked before.
Really?
No, for a car that is not tiring to drive. Have you?
Probably. I mean, there's cars that you think, I just done a huge journey and that wasn't an issue.
Yeah.
Strangely, it always used to be kind of, if you were going down to like the Geneva Motor Show, driving to Geneva, it's like, what would be your ideal car for doing that in?
Yes, those kind of things.
Yeah.
Okay. I wonder if actually this is a really good one to throw out to all of you in the audience, because you're driving loads of cars. We get to drive them for maybe several months if they're a long term or a week. So let us know if you've got any recommendations for Nick. As you said, extra points if it's available used under 30. I mean, we've got a couple of suggestions, haven't we?
Yeah, well, the obvious one for me is Citroen. So I was driving this week the new EC4, and Citroen's big on comfort again, and it's got squishy suspension, not quite as squishy as it used to be in the old days, but it still is squishy, and very squishy seats too. So I think that would be one.
It would be really good choice. Nicole, it makes me laugh. She always talks about Citroens being cushy on your tushti.
Yes, exactly.
Which is very Nick thing to say.
Yeah.
I think that's a pretty good, a really good choice. But what we'll come back to you. So please do let us know if you've got any suggestions for those cars that are just really restful and you get out feeling like, that was good. I'm just trying to think what I've done long journeys in recently.
I mean, this.
I've taken this up to Manchester and back.
Yeah.
Like over in a day. And actually, for what is a sporty car.
Yeah. The ride on this is remarkable. It's on 20-inch wheels. It's got 326 horsepower and it's very fast. But I don't know how they do it. There's some witchcraft. In it. It's clever.
The Cupra witchcraft. But actually, the base models of this still ride really well. So actually, we'll add into that mix Cupra Born. And definitely you've got good models, you know, sort of fairly couple of years old available under 30,000, haven't you? Okay, oh, it's talking.
I'm not sure, sorry.
Oh, the voice
Here's
activation.
an overview of all the functions. Pausing for voice assistant.
Oh, bless her. She wanted to join in the conversation about that.
Bless.
There we
Press
go.
hit or activate Cooper Assistant continue.
Shall we let's ask her.
What?
How do we do this? Where's Cooper Assistant? Where's the assistant button?
Press
there we
here
go.
to activate.
Hi, Cooper.
I'm not sure, sorry. Here's an overview of all the functions you can control with your voice. You can select one by saying its name or the line number.
Oh, bless. Okay, let's not ask her to recommend any comfy cars. Okay, thank you. Let's move on, shall we? Okay, have you got another?
I've got yes from Mikey Madison, which sounds like a kind of a
Pausing
name for
the voice assistant.
to be quiet. Right, let's press pause.
Should we turn her off?
Turn her off.
Let's just turn her off. She's done.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. So Mikey Madison, who sounds like somebody from a 90s American sitcom.
It's a great name, Mikey Madison.
Yeah. I currently drive a 2021 Hyundai Ioniq 5, but my lease is due to end in a few months. My initial plan was to replace it with another. However, this time last year I had the dreaded ICCU fault, meaning the car was off the road waiting for parts over 8 weeks. Dealer communication was poor and I felt like an inconvenience.
Oh, that's rubbish.
My previous cars have been Mercedes or other premium brands, and I can't help but think maybe in terms of service you get what you pay for. I have a Greyhound and a smaller Terrier and need a good boot, and the Ioniq is perfect because it is shallow enough to let the Terrier see out, unlike most SUVs. What should I choose?
Just really interesting, actually, that comment, because I remember talking to the UK MD of Audi about this whole thing about with electric cars has come less brand loyalty, and how, you know, people are much more open to, you may have always had an Audi or a Mercedes, but actually you'll go into a Kia or a Skoda or in this case a Hyundai. And he was saying, but it's how they handle those customers, because that's what we know what to do with premium cars. You know, we're used to giving a level of service. So if they're moving out of our cars into other brands, they'll be disappointed. And I was a bit sniffy about that at the time. And I'm sure this doesn't apply to all brands or indeed all dealers, because I think it's very dealer specific, isn't it? But it's interesting to read that. But I don't think that in our experience we have letters and emails from people who get bad experiences in premium brands as well. So I don't think it follows that premium brand, great experience.
Yeah, and I think it varies from dealer to dealer, doesn't it? I would normally suggest that a dealer from a kind of family-run business tend to be better.
Yeah.
Or you want a dealer, when you walk in, they know who you are, and that you build up a relationship with. And I think the likes of Skoda and Kia...
Bless this car. She wants to join in.
Skoda and Kia, I think generally the family-owned businesses of those tend to do very well in surveys and things. And some of the new Chinese brands, rather than go to the big groups, they've gone to these small family dealers. So like a Moda, for example, I'm not sure I can quite recommend an Moda yet, but lots of them have gone to like the old family-run Ford dealerships and things. So
well, they'll get those good service levels.
Good service.
I think looking actually at that question, though, that you want to replace potentially the Ioniq 5 and you don't want to go for another one, I mean, Renault Scenic, I think, should be something that you'd look at. I have a friend I know, who's looking around for an EV at the moment. He's been going to loads of dealerships. He said both he's been to Renault and Kia. And thought they were both great and knowledgeable and answered his questions and were really good to deal with. So I'd chuck that in. Tesla Model Y, it's got dog mode. It's one of our, it's if you need that practicality for dogs as well, might be worth considering. But honestly, for me also, a great alternative to the Ioniq 5 is the Skoda Enyaq. So I've got the new Enyaq.
Whoop, whoop, whoop,
What?
It's a Skoda Enyaq alarm.
Oh, can't believe you're making this a thing. Look at what they've literally made me an Enyaq square pot. Am I really putting it?
Yeah, put the band in. This is our Christmas party fund.
It's because I recommend it so much. There we go. It has become a thing now, apparently. It's been in a video. this week as well.
Yes.
Is it really going to come out every time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Right.
We'll see
Great.
how much we've got.
I'm here for that. Let's see
Excellent.
Christmas. Okay.
Excellent. We'll try and get some credit card tap thing so you can't say you haven't got any change.
Okay, let's move on to your comments in the post bag, or even the emails or the comments on YouTube. So you can, if you're listening to this on wherever you get your podcasts from, you can email us podcast@electrifying.com with your comments, suggestions, car buying questions, or of course do let us know in the comments below.
Now, this one is one that you can answer.
Okay.
Because you've been in both cars. So this is from MI82475. I don't think that's his real name. I have a question for you regarding...
Maybe it's one of Elon's children. It's another one of his kids.
I have a question for you regarding the EV4. Tom commented a few weeks ago about the nasty feeling cheap door handles in the EV3. I've seen them in real life and I agree.
Yes.
In your videos of the EV4, that door handles seem different, a bit fake chromed. Are they better?
Oh, gosh. Honestly, I can't remember.
It's a strange thing, isn't it? It's just I'm thinking, feeling them in this Cooper and the plastic, but also slightly metallic.
Isn't it?
But it is these bits you touch every day, isn't it, that make a difference to how you feel about the car.
Yeah, it's often those like you say in this car, for example, there's some not very nice plastics around the sort of the window
pulls,
controls and the door pulls.
Yeah.
Do you know, it's just so bad. I honestly can't remember, and that's really, really bad of me. But do you know what? I'm going to find out and report back.
Please
There we go. Sorry about that. Let's take another one. Ms. Reb One, another of Elon's children.
Yeah.
Another. EV2 is cool. EV4 is disjointed and ugly, in my opinion. Graham Harrison. 1323. I like both the EV4. Something a bit different when most cars nowadays look very samey. More love here for the EV4 from Can He Grow a Beard? That's amazing. Can he grow? You can.
Yeah, I can. Yeah.
I don't get the dislike being directed towards the EV4. Looks are subjective, but I think both body styles look good. They cut a smaller shape than the EV5 will, so should have better efficiency than will, and that's why they've done those shapes, definitely.
Richard Piper 4828. I rather like the look of the Kia EV2. It's cuter than the EV3, which in my opinion is a bit ungainly around the rear three-quarter. EV2 looks closer to BMW i3 in terms of size, although I understand the rear coach doors are unlikely to make the production version.
That's true. That is true. And is sad. Let's just address some of those for a minute before we move on to this next comment along that. I think it's interesting. I really liked the EV4 in that sort of hatchback form. Looks a bit statey. I thought that was quite cool. I didn't love it in saloon form, and I don't think you did either. And I think it's quite divisive, but it's great to hear that so many people are supporting it and like it. And I think that's the brilliant thing, is there's so many different cars around now. There's sort of something for everybody. EV2 is super cute. Really, really cute. And yes, you're right. I think not everybody, the EV3's angles are not to everyone's taste. And we've said that in videos, you know, it's the prawn cocktail to the salt and vinegar crisps, I think was an analogy we use. EV2, though, is so cute, but I wish they'd give it those doors, but they're not going to. So sad face.
We need to rattle through these because we're running over.
We are.
So John Trim 6893. I have to ask, what everyone at Electrifying raves about the Kia EV3 and prefer it to the Skoda Elrock. You highlight that it's got a smaller boot, less rear legroom. You can't see some of the dashboard, the steering wheel covers it, and there's not much storage space due to the stupid tray. Compared to the Skoda Elrock 85 and the Lodge interior, which is brighter and far more of a car-like experience, I wonder why you keep banging on about the Kia range.
Okay.
Well, I've driven them both, and I really like the Elrock, and I thought it kind of suited me, and it's a great car, but I just think the Kia's probably a bit better.
It's just a bit better. When we get to this kind of level where we are reviewing cars that are really good, we're looking at, you know, little tiny things between both, like efficiency on one or the comfort of the seats. You know, they're small things. For us, EV3 was made our car of the year.
Yep.
We hadn't driven the Elrock at that point, and the Elrock is a brilliant car.
It was close, and
was
you
very,
might prefer
very
the
close.
Elrock. It might be that the Elrock's more conventional looks and way it drives suits you better, and help yourself.
And we did say that, I think, at the end of the video, that, you know, I think either of those cars, you are not going to go wrong with either of them.
Yep. We better sign off before we lose any more cameras.
I think we've just lost 2 of our cameras. This is the problems with filming in the car.
In the car.
So yeah, and also we've got to hand this back, haven't we? Better take it back. Are you driving it back all right?
I'm driving it back.
Okay. Thanks for joining us. You've been listening to the Kilowatt Half Hour. Please do share if you can, like, subscribe, drop us a comment, all of that stuff, and we'll be back next week with another episode.
Bye.
Okay. Oh, and I'll be claiming my £5.
We'll see.